here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned. Immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of Mark Brydon, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Has been in various bands, including the Sheffield-based band in the 80s, Chakk, and then went on to form Moloko in the 90s, and also helped fund Fond Studios as well, which you'll find out a bit more about in this fascinating interview. So yes, so after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Mark, it's over to you.
Well, I'm a little bit older than you, I think. So I was born in 1960, and so I was a kind of toddler in Beatlemania. But then in the 70s were my teenage years, so kind of started out with glam rock, the Sweet and things like that. They were what you danced to at school discos and stuff. And I guess at home I had the first record I ever bought was a record by Colin Blunstone.
Oh yes, on the Zombies. Oh yes.
And I loved the strings for some reason, and I think that stayed with me. I always loved strings. But then the second record I bought was Split by the Groundhogs, which was a kind of psychedelic rock. And then I had this kind of, at home I used to listen to kind of proggy things, really, but I still like pop music.
Yes.
So I didn't have to sort of separate one from the other, you know.
Yes. Did you have any older brothers or sisters that
I have an older sister, yes, and she was a little bit more of the flower power era, I guess, than me. So she liked Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and which I enjoyed. But you always want to find something for yourself, don't you?
Well, yes. And how did you manage to find, because I had older brother who was 7 years old, and he, during that 70s period, he was very into prog rock. So I used to sneak into his room to listen to all those classic albums from his record collection, which were all put in those plastic sleeves because they were all beautiful covers. And he was very obsessed about filing at a very young age. So the Roger Dean posters. So that's where I sort of had a love for, all the bands like Yes, Genesis, Bach, James Harvest, the solo work of Rick Wakeman I loved as well. So how did you find prog then? How did that come on your radar? Because it definitely wasn't.
Well, I suppose I was a secret sort of bedroom guitar player at that time. I didn't play in bands. I played along to records, basically. That's to learn to play the guitar. And so they were sort of considered the wizards of their instruments, weren't they? Or
yes, the musicality of Chris Squire.
Wizards, full stop. I don't know. So you kind of were impressed by that at that age, I guess.
Yes, well, absolutely. And did you ever manage to stay up late enough to watch the old grey whistle test?
Oh my goodness, yeah. And subsequently, actually, in later years, we actually got Whispering Bob to come and we did a video with Moloko for a track called Pure Pleasure Seekers, and he came in, and it was kind of like a parody of Roxy Music. And when he introduced Roxy Music on the Old Grey Whistle test, he said, everyone knows what my opinion about Roxy Music is, but anyway, here they are. And so we got him to say, everybody knows about my opinion about Moloko, but anyway, here they are in the studio, and he came in and did that for us. So I got to meet him in the end.
Right.
And, it was kind of cool. Yeah, but I loved the Old Grey Whistle test, and we had, yeah.
Well, actually, recently on Sky Arts, I've been watching Guy Garvey doing this kind of series where he's unearthed all these kind of amazing clips of kind of, I suppose, music programs, but also they were
Right.
very regional. A lot of children's television that had some amazing artists on, from
Oh,
Keith
yeah.
Moon to Susie and the Banshees. So, did you have any regional shows up on the North?
Well, I was in the Northeast until uh, 1979, I think, and there was the Tube.
Oh,
If you
yes, of
remember.
course. Yes, that was
And did that
absolutely.
become something else? I think it became something else. I can't quite remember, but
But I know there was
yeah.
one from sort of, was it Newcastle, or sort of they had a, because I've been watching them, and there was one from Birmingham called Revolver, and then there was another one called Supersonic where the producer would go cue camera five, and all those ones.
Cue the music.
Cue the music, and so it was like all these ones from like London, but the ones from the northeast and northwest in
Yeah.
Manchester, I had never seen, and
But
they,
it's weird because the director of the Tube was a guy called Malcolm Gerry, and I must have known him since I was like 14, 15, 16, because he was involved in schools in the area, um, getting sort of kids to be creative and do productions. So he was like a bloke I knew from school who went on to direct and produce the Tube. So yeah,
yes.
it seemed perfectly logical to me at that age. Oh yeah, that's what you do.
That's absolutely, and the lineups and the sort of events they had on the Tube were quite kind of bonkers. When I've seen sort of clips of it now, or sort of someone's loaded a load of the shows on YouTube, it was just like it was very random. But I suppose they had to fill 2 hours each Friday, and
Yeah,
they just got anything they could. So
yeah.
it
Well, it
was,
was a big break for a lot of people, I guess.
well, yes. I mean, to get on
TV.
telly.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So when you got to 16, which was been around 1976, the ideal
yeah.
year for punk, did you leave school at that age, or did you go on to college and university?
No, my ticket to the sort of sophisticated Midlands was to do my A levels and go to college in Sheffield. So I left for Sheffield in 1979, I think. Yeah.
Right,
And
there you go. And did punk sort of have a big impact on your life? Because I'm, to be honest, a little bit too young for punk by a
no,
few
not
years.
really. I think we had a few. Not many came to Sunderland at the time. Yeah, they had their own punk band, the Toy Dolls, which I wasn't that bothered about. I was kind of into by the time I was 17, 16, 17, I was kind of listening to prog rock at home and then dancing to disco and James Brown on a Friday and Saturday night. So I was sort of separating them. And I went to see, I think it was the Jam or something in Sunderland. But yeah, it didn't grab me as much as kind of R&B and
Yes. Did you do any
stuff.
Northern Soul nights as well?
I didn't know. I only found out about Northern. I had a mate who used to go to Northern Soul nights, and he actually did one of those sort of marathon dance-a-thons where I think it was based on the film They Shoot Horses, don't they? Where they just dance, and it was like he had his baggy pants on, and he did like a marathon 72-hour Northern Soul dance for charity. That's
My
about as
God.
close as I got.
Yes, well,
I got into it in later years, yeah, but not
yes.
not at the time.
So then you were in Sheffield, which
Yeah,
was kind of the home of sort of this very interesting avant-garde sort of electronic music. Did that
yes,
was that on your radar as you entered college?
no, no, it wasn't. I was kind of getting into electronic things. What would that be like? Gary Newman and orchestral maneuvers, perhaps. And then I went to see Cabaret Voltaire and Throbbing Gristle
Right.
in one of the venues in Sheffield, and I was just like, I had no idea this kind of music existed. And so for me, that was quite a road to Damascus moment. And yeah, that really opened my vision. I think
Yes.
that's the right word. No, opened my eyes anyway.
Opened your sort of, yes, your third eye, or whatever
Yeah.
they call it in hippie terms. So what, from that, did you then sort of look to form a band with your bass guitar?
Well, yeah, we kind of formed a band around a 4-track tape recorder. My next door neighbour had a 4-track tape recorder, and we would kind of make tape loops and 4-track tape loops that you could mix and manipulate. So for a kick drum, we would stick a mic in a cushion and hit the floor and then make a tape loop of that. And then, so it was kind of, that's how a band started. And then well, they were kind of the backing tracks. And then we added bass and saxophone and things like that. So we were in the
Yes.
sort of post-punk period here. So bands like Brydon Panic and a certain ratio and the pop group were kind of big influences. They were sort of mixing funky elements with experimentalism. So
Yes. And there was,
that's
I don't know if they were the same, but there was Pig Bag as well, wasn't there? That was a
Big
bit.
Bag. Yeah, that was a massive record, wasn't it?
Yes,
Um,
it sort of, I mean, it was kind of, I mean, it's kind of interesting because that New York punk scene that came out, that there's
yeah,
various compilations on, that kind of incorporated a lot more funk and jazz and sort of, I don't know,
yeah.
staccato rhythms, which were a little bit more kind of
Well,
challenging, but kind of interesting.
there was all the stuff on Z Records, which was kind of, I think they called it mutant disco.
Oh, that's the ones, yes.
And I always find that was where my sort of blanket was laid out in that kind of world, I suppose. But I was a bass player, so it was kind of a good environment for bass players, I guess. That kind of
So had you gone from sort of the Chris Squire sort of bass lines to something a little bit more funky during that sort of
exactly,
trend?
yeah. I think Chris Squire could be quite funky at times, but yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my that's what I was listening to. That's what was inspiring me. Yeah, and bands like Talking Heads, because that they were around at the time. They were funky, but odd.
Well,
Kind of
yes.
countercultural in a
Well,
way.
there was something a bit more sort of, I don't know, intriguing than, say, Sham 69 about Talking Heads, wasn't there?
Yeah, yeah.
So did
So
you,
so
and I was
we
going to say
formed
at
we
that,
formed a band called Chakk,
yes.
CHAKK, and made a very homemade record. Well, actually, we were invited into Cabaret Voltaire's studio, Western Works, to record it, and then and they put it out on their label Double Vision, and it caused a bit of a stir with John Peel and The Enemy and what have you. So that was my sort of beginning, really, in
Well, yeah,
showbiz.
in that world of, I know, getting on the John Peel show. I mean, during that period as well, I mean, kind of the decade, though we look back on it with great enthusiasm, I have to say the soundtrack was great, but politically it was a bit tricky. I mean, we had, Thatcher got in, then was the Falkland War, and then there was a miners' strike, Greenham Common.
That
It
was
was
the whole background, yeah.
it was the background to that early 80s period, which was quite, and, the miners, did I mention the miners' strike, Greenham Common? Yes. So politically, things were a little bit on the tricky side at that stage. I mean, I think one of the reasons there were so many indie bands was there's massive unemployment, but
Mm,
there was unemployment benefit and job seekers allowance.
mm.
Was that part of what created the band as well, or helped sort of create it?
Absolutely. I mean, in Sheffield at the time, there was shed loads of old factory space that you could rent for probably 20 quid a month or something, ridiculous. So there were all these sort of loads of bands and little studios up on the tops of old Mester buildings, like old factory buildings. Most of them have been knocked down now and built into flats, but that kind of the possibility to have a little space and make. I mean, I mean, Thatcher, the miners' strike, that was all going on, and we were in South Yorkshire, so I think South Yorkshire felt it particularly badly, and unemployment was massive. But one thing she did do was the enterprise allowance scheme.
Yes, is that the one with the £1,000 in the bank account?
So it was basically a universal basic income, and you could earn on top of that if you got a gig or what have you. And so many people from dance companies to graphic designers to musicians to studio all went on this, and the vast majority have managed to get through, and have a career out of it. I think once they discovered that they were financing a kind of counterculture, they weren't too happy about it. It wasn't quite the little entrepreneurs they were hoping for, but it was a fantastic.
Well, I think
thing. I think they've done something similar in Ireland recently. So
right, yes, I think the basic income scheme is just actually quite amazing, because I think it's it doesn't really cost a lot, but obviously politically it's a massive thing, isn't it? So they'd rather you become homeless. And
I think it was political, but in the end, because there were lots of, we're financing this lesbian dance organisation, what, and spluttering into their teacups. So yes, it was killed.
Yes, but God, I mean, they did sort of, like I said, I've been a little bit boggled by how many indie bands, even though I was an indie kid myself during that period. And I mean, the John Peel show was kind of, I got the trusty TDK D90 cassette and would record the show, because when you listen to music that you've got, it's all new and it's from every type of genre virtually, it's quite hard to digest it. So you just have to listen to it a few times. And I mean, Peel had those early, dance records, rap records from sort of New York, which were quite interesting. And then threw in things like the Bundu Boys or extreme noise terror or Bulgarian folk music, which I really like that kind of mix personally. So it does help.
I had that Bulgarian album as well.
And I went to see the Bundu Boys at least twice, so it was
And I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I know. Yes, most people wouldn't, would they? But one day they'll be recognised for the genius they were. But it was good, and then there was all the roots reggae stuff that came through as well.
Yeah.
Like Aswad and Burning Spear and Misty and Roots and all those bands. So then, obviously, there was also Finny Tribe. Had they appeared around your time, or was that a little bit?
I guess it would have been, yeah. I remember the name, but I'm not massively familiar with them. But yeah,
I think they've just got a box set of their early material out. So then you got a John Peel show, didn't you? A John Peel session, actually, which must have been a thrilling. I
thought it was a Janice Long session, but
no, it wasn't. You were there on. God, I've done so much research, actually.
Wow.
No, I laugh because it's just So on the 17th of October, 1984, you were there. With Dale Griffin from Mott the Hoople was your producer. Yes,
I remember that name. Yes.
In
Maida Vale.
Maida Vale.
And there was a bit because we had a drummer and I was playing bass and there was saxophone and singing, but we had some sort of machine stuff on the 4-track. And we took the 4-track into the BBC, and the union guys were going, "Oh, we're not having that." That means you could have been employing a session musician, and we had to really argue hard that couldn't be done by a session player, and that these machine noises had to come off tape. So
was that Alan Cross, your keyboard?
It was, yeah.
And tape man.
Alan Cross was just incredible. I mean, Alan Cross was an incredible engineer and producer in his own right, and the way he cut tape was just, he'd be slicing microscopic little bits and measuring them with tape measures and stuff. So
yes,
yeah.
I mean,
it was a big part of that sound.
I mean, I've been sort of listening to the material. I mean, it's very It's very much. I mean, it's perfect John Peel material, isn't it? It was kind of all, you know. So, I mean, I was going to say challenging, but it's funky, but challenging, but quite different, wasn't it? It wasn't Sade, was it? It wasn't
No.
smooth and easily accessible. It was definitely a John Peel type of band.
Okay, well, I guess that's kind of good. I think, you know, we ended up with a label that really didn't want us to be like that, really. They wanted us to be a bit more internationally pop-tabulous. So, yeah, it kind of got a bit distorted through that lens
Yes,
towards
but
the end.
but I did notice the show that he plays your session on. It does feature the first track is Talking Heads, and you do have sort of
Oh,
people
okay.
like Gregory Isaacs on it, and Orange Juice, and Frankie Paul,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's a very and the Redskins, who we all loved at that time as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
So yeah, so it was. So were you pleased with the results of your sort of Peel session?
I should imagine so. I'm struck. Is it archived anywhere? I don't know.
Well, there is somebody who seems to have managed to get all who's been doing the John Peel sessions has got it on his YouTube
Oh,
channel,
cool.
and it's all there. It's
Oh,
it's
wow.
um,
Ah,
it's there as sort of our amusing and yeah, just it's quite nice. You can spend hours going down these places just looking at old sessions for John Peel and sort of
wow.
being quite interesting. So yeah, it is all archived actually, and
Uh-huh.
if you get a chance to have a look at it actually.
I'll have a little
So
look here.
so you did Cut the Dust, Number Three Sound, Mother Tongues, and Sedative Ends.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
So there you go. So that's the one. So I won't ask you about that then. So with bringing the music together, did you just sort of was it just through jamming, rehearsing, or did one person have a particular sort of vision for the band?
I think, well, Alan kind of brought the technology, I guess, and so some of the first sequences that we'd ever come across, kind of fiddly things, but they were electronic, and that was exciting. I mean, I suppose technology always informs music. So when the electric guitar was invented, music changed. When the drum machine was invented, music changed, and sequences changed the music. So I was bringing my funky bass, hopefully, and Sim was bringing his saxophone, which he was kind of treating with effects and stuff. And yeah, so I think there was no sort of like strategy. We were just um, bringing our influences into the room, I guess.
Yes, because you followed up Out of the Flesh with a track the following year, You, which came out in '85. This was also on
Oh yeah,
Fon Records, wasn't it? And this got to
yeah.
number 14 in the indie charts, I believe.
Wow.
There you
Well,
go.
there you go. And that's when the major labels started sniffing around. You see, so
Well, this is it. So MCA, did you have a manager at this stage?
uh, yes, yeah. Amric Rai, who was a kind of, and David Taylor were a partnership, and they shared an office with the guy who did Sonic Youth down in King's Cross. So there was a weird little clash there, but yeah. So yeah, we did. And but Fon was the collective of the band members of Chakk and Amric and Dave. So yeah,
Yes. God, I didn't realise what it stood for. Fond,
mate.
Fon.
Well, fuck off Nazis, which was like a big, which I always thought was a bit. Well, there's nothing wrong with fucking off Nazis, but I thought it was a bit kind of, nah, 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 nah. But it also sounded like a sound, like a fon. It sounded like phono or something. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
know.
phone. I think phono
Yeah.
probably best to sort of have that one really. So then, when with the MCA, did they say, "Look, here's the dotted line, sign on it. Did they
Yeah.
give you a kind of a one deal, one album contract, or did they want you for a 5 year, three?
Oh, I think they probably wanted us for 5, but they dropped us after 1. So yeah, that's how it goes usually.
Yes,
If you get
not.
into 5, you're doing all right. I suppose.
I guess so. Did
Yeah.
you at that stage? Was there any change of line, a kind of a lineup change at that stage with your drummer,
Uh,
or did you?
ooh. Yeah, well, maybe Dee Boyle came in at that stage. Dee, who sadly is no longer with us, but he ended up playing in the Long Pigs.
Right.
But he was Chakk's drummer for that sort of period. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And
I mean,
can you remember what studio you went to for the experience?
well, that was the whole fun thing. We got some money from MCA to go and make a record, and we said, well, we're going to build our own instead of paying £1,000 a day in somewhere in the West End. So that we always knew that if it didn't work out, we got dropped. We still had the studio to continue. The workers seizing the means of production, and
God, yes. Let's get Marxist about this.
yeah. So yeah, that was the thinking behind it, and that's what happened, and that's what we did. So that's where Fun Studios began. Out of
From
the
your advance from MCA,
Yeah, and there
right?
was an interesting article. I think it was in the Guardian, meant a few years back, saying about talking about catalyst bands and how they didn't enjoy success, perhaps, but they enabled some change to happen, and I think that's what Fun did. So kind of enabled us to begin Fun, and that led to so many happy catalytic conversions.
Well, absolutely. And your producer for the album, Richard James Burgess,
Yeah.
who was in Landscape, wasn't he?
Hmm. Yeah.
Einstein a Go-Go, who I interviewed recently. God, he's got an amazing CV. Was he your first choice producer?
I guess no. I think these were suggestions by the record label, and we had Sly and Robbie, for God. That was our idea. Can we have Sly and Robbie come and produce a couple of tracks? But and Richard James Burgess, and maybe we did ask for him because he'd done Colonel Abrahams.
He had, and I bought that single
Yeah,
track.
and that was the kind of proto house record in a way, slightly ahead of the curve, and to us it was there would have been a dub on the B side, and that dub would have been played a lot in our
Yes.
house. So that was the reason. Oops, that was the reasoning behind him.
Yes, well, absolutely. No, I
And
know.
Sly and Robbie, because we loved a Gwen Guthrie record,
Oh, yes.
which was Padlock, and that was remixed by somebody very famous who I can't remember. And that was a definitive record for us at the time.
Did
Yeah,
she do nothing?
sadly, what happened, and this was a learning curve, we discovered that when a record label employs a producer, they're actually working for the record company, not for you. So they were getting their instructions from the label. And much as we admired their work, it was kind of a bit of a different vision, I think. So, yeah.
Yes. Did you ever play live?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Did you do the circuit around the Great British Isles?
Uh,
It was a bit
we
of a
did,
circuit, wasn't there? It was the sort of.
no, we did a few gigs, not so many. Yeah, and our very last gig, when it was all going belly up, was in Bernard Manning's Embassy Club in Manchester. Yeah,
Blimey.
and that was kind of like it. Okay, that's that then. Bernard Manning sitting in the corner going, "What's this fucking crap?" Um,
Yes, that must have been a rather smoky environment. Yeah, my God, that's. So then when the album came out, Did it go through a lot of negotiations at that stage?
It go through a lot of
Well, did
negotiations.
they like it when you said, "This is the album"? Did they say, "Oh, fantastic, this is just what we've been looking for"? Or did they go, "Oh my god, this is quite interesting"?
Well, they went with it and they put it out, and not much happened. So that's the way it goes, you know. I think we kind of alienated the people who liked the weird records at the beginning and not really hit the nail for people who wanted us to sound like Tears for Fears, you know. So it was in this sort of horrible hinterland.
Yeah. So
Although somebody did find the original demos recently. I think Jake from the band might have them, and there was some talk about re-releasing those because they were great, and they just kind of got overproduced, and yeah. So I
it
hope
was,
that happens one day.
yes, the 80s did have that production sound, which does
Yeah,
have a bit of a dated vibe to it now. That kind of Trevor Horn
yeah.
bombastic moment, really. So then, so about 86, 87, was that when you called it a day after your Bernard Manning moment?
Yeah, after the Burning Manning gig, it was kind of like an apex, inverted apex moment. Yeah.
Well, quite.
Um,
So that was
uh,
87, which again, music was changing quite drastically at that point because
yeah.
a lot of indie bands who I loved had sort of decided to split up because most bands I've realised doing this show have that 5-year narrative, and you've ticked quite a few of the boxes. The single, the John Peel Show, the first album, most get a second, possibly a third, but about 5 years, and then it's like, God, we've just had it. We can't do this anymore because the
Mm,
lack of money and also the tension within a band as well. So there's not
mm,
much to keep going. So what happens for you? Because at that stage, I don't know if you can remember, there was a collection or compilation that came out on Street Sounds called Electro
hmm.
One, and
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
Morgan Khan. So music was changing quite a lot, and then we had that towards that latter part, you had people like a guy called Gerald, and then you had, I don't know, the Orb appearing, and then suddenly
Mhm.
dance music, ecstasy came along. Let's face it, that did change a lot of stuff, didn't it?
Yes.
So how were you then with when the band finished and then suddenly we were into 1988?
I can't remember when the band finished, but there was a kind of a very natural. Suddenly, people wanted remixes, and people, you know, dance records, electro, proto house, early house was starting to happen, and Fon started to get a reputation in that world because we were. I can't remember what some of the early bands we had in. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, Robert Gordon became involved. Robert Gordon went on to form the Forge Masters, and he produced The Fall and Butthole Surfers in the first studio. I think the Butthole Surfers came over, and he kind of developed this sort of indie band, but with electro um, angles.
Yes, because you had Age of Chance, didn't you, as well?
Robert did Age of Chance, which was like just a genius piece of sample um, uh, writing, you know, writing with samples, because the technology wasn't what it's like today. You couldn't time stretch, and so how he did that, I don't know. So yeah, Fun got this reputation as being, you know, an electronic studio, I guess, not a band studio, and that kind of continued.
Oh, you did House Arrest, didn't you, by
Yeah,
Crush? That
yeah,
was another. Yeah, there was some really great anthemic moments coming out, and I suppose,
yeah.
yes, you had.
And I did well with Parrot, who's now the Crooked Man. We did the Funky Worm that charted, and Robert and I did the album for Yaz, if you remember
Oh
her.
yes, God, absolutely.
And then we did weird things like a Psychic TV album, and I did a lot of writing with Boy George. I did an album with Boy George, and that was all in that period. It was,
Yes.
you know,
Was this his post? sort
it
of
was.
post.
Yeah, he was discovering dance music as well, and he's got a great voice, so
God,
his
it's
voice kind of
amazing.
suited it. Yeah,
Did he do a record about was it Jesus Loves You or something like that?
yeah, that was
With
it.
Harry Krishna track. I
That's
don't
the
know.
album I worked on. I didn't do that track, but yeah, Bow Down, Mister, I think
But
it
how
was
much?
called.
Yes, and it has the famous Laura Logic, who was in X-Ray Specs. I think she said that was the only time she was on Top of the Pops was
Oh
singing,
wow, okay.
singing to Bow Down
Was
Mister.
she a Harry Krishna then?
She, yes,
Yeah.
very much so. So, and so was Polystyrene as
Oh
well.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's how they sort of met again after the band had finished. They sort of went, "Oh, how awkward!" But we better not have an argument. It's not the we're in this sacred place, and perhaps we should let it all go. Yeah. So that was God. That was a great period for Boy, actually, wasn't it, Boy George?
Yeah, it was. I think. Yeah, we wrote for Karen Wheeler from Soul to Soul, and we wrote for an artist called Eve Gallagher, who had some kind of club success, I think. Yeah, it was a very productive period.
Yes, and then we trundle into the 90s, going from Thatcher to John Major years,
Yeah,
and obviously dance music, and then Britpop started. So then, how's you have a whole 90s soundtrack to your life, don't you?
I suppose, yes. Yeah, well, we moved the studio, we invested a lot of money, and we moved into a council sponsored, because the Sheffield City Council had kind of gone, oh, hang on, we've got all these kind of music producers working out of our city. And we were quite militant about not going to London to do our to make music, and it could be done in Sheffield. And the council kind of went, yeah, we like that. And so we moved to a building which had the Human League in next door to us, and another outfit called Manor, who produced a lot of big 90s, late early 90s records, which I can't remember now. But yeah, so we were this little music hub and invested a lot of money in a bigger studio, and yeah, but there, that was more like a community centre in a way, because people were kind of passing through, and it had a couple of rooms. So you would have a writing room. So you'd have like Nightmares on Wax working in what we call the programming room, and you might have Take That or The Fall in the other room, or the Doves, I think. Oh no, they were called something else.
Right.
And then 808 State would be there. You never knew. I would come there in the morning, and Sparks would be sitting in the reception area, and it's like, what? I grew up with you guys. What are you doing here? Yeah. So again, that was another very busy time,
Well, yeah,
and
absolutely. Did it feel like a very different? I mean, at the time, it's hard to, I don't know, have that much awareness of it. But did that next period feel very different to the 80s for you?
yeah, because we were kind of enmeshed uh, with the world of music, I guess. Having been a kind of little satellite operation, suddenly, you had kind of big names coming into the studio, and or people like 808 State, coming over from Manchester to make a record. And also, this was early kind of warp period, so that was also happening mostly at night. When the mainstream artists went back to their hotels. So kind of again, it was a kind of catalytic place for acts like Nightmares on Wax to flourish and begin their journey.
Yes, absolutely. And then sort of when did you sort of form your next combo? Did that sort of come together quite seamlessly? Did you want to be in another band?
I hadn't planned on being, but after, I don't know how many years it was it 4 or 5? We ended up in bankruptcy situation, and the council actually bankrupted us. So, yeah, that was a kind of dark period. And basically, there was another outfit in Sheffield called Five Boys, who were producing the Spice Girls and Take That, and they did a lot of those records. And so I think the council decided that it was better for their profile if they had the Spice Girls and Take That producers in there instead of these sort of funny dance bods. And so, yeah, we lost that studio then. And I kind of grabbed the computer and a synth and ran home. And I was going to lose my flat, but I kind of thought, I'm going to keep going from home. And then I met Róisín, and we began Moloko.
Right, my God, and this next period is just so prolific, isn't it? Did you feel like you were on that cultural zeitgeist at this point?
No, I think it was just no, not at all. I think it was just very organic, and it just felt right. So, yeah, there was, that's how it goes. If you if you don't edit yourself, which when you're younger, you don't edit, do you? You just do it. Yeah, of course, we're going to do this. Let's get on with it.
Yes, well, I think there is a sort of a combination of, I don't know, especially the younger bits where with a lot of bands, I think there's a sort of I don't know about arrogance, but there's a sort of a naive, innocent arrogance
Yeah,
combination that obviously as you get older and things get, you get slightly stabbed in the back, have
jaded.
some jaded. You kind of can't have that kind of naive enthusiasm where
No.
you think you're
No,
untouchable.
it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? You just embrace whatever comes along and bounce with it. So yeah, I mean, Moloko came. I think we still had the studio when I met Róisín, and we did a few bits and bobs in some dead time there. But
Was that in
for
Pondview Studios in Sheffield?
Pond Life, Pond
Pond,
View.
Pond.
Oh, Pond Life, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, that would be Pond Life. Yeah, because I had a pond in the garden in
Right.
my flat. Yeah.
And
Eh,
did the material all come together quite quickly for you at this stage?
yes, because we were playing, we were just having the best time, the most fun. We had no agenda. We could be whatever we wanted to do. We could do. So yeah, because it was on our own time in my attic, and so yeah, it was just pure fun, and we were thick as thieves, so we embraced that. And I think Róisín, was amazing at inhabiting characters. So we were just playing with people we'd never met, but we'd seen in films or TV, and just playing with. So we didn't have to be, ourselves, or if you see what I mean. It was just a very playful project to begin with.
Well, I think it kind of helps. I mean, having that
Yeah.
obsession with David Bowie, realised that those characters that he could inhabit can
Mm.
help one sort of navigate through sort of personal blockages,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
be somebody you're not, but it gives you the confidence to go through with it at that stage. And also, it was kind of the 90s did have a lot. I mean, money started to appear, didn't it? I mean, the 70s felt quite grim. The 80s felt also quite grim. Kind of financially, there wasn't a lot of money knocking about. And then the 90s came, and there's this sort of sense of things beginning to open up, and sort of record sales and indie bands from the 80s that had split up. Suddenly, those indie bands that started in the 90s suddenly became kind of getting on compilations, selling huge amounts in the mainstream, and bands suddenly appearing on top of the pop. So it did seem very different, the 90s, that sort of John Major to New Labour period. There was suddenly a bit more optimism. People didn't
Well,
sit around moaning about being unemployed so much.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, if I hate the word rave, but you know, when you started seeing some of the bands on Top of the Pops that had come out of early dance music, you knew that had it had had an effect on the whole environment. You know, something that had happened in people's bedrooms, DIY making drum machines and sequences, suddenly had a huge cultural significance, and that was quite amazing to see. I mean, you know, suddenly these bands were significant bands, and worthy of being on TV and having hit records.
And were
So
you kind of sort of tuned into the sort of the Bristol trip hop scene and Portishead and that kind of people love that kind of ambient trip hop sound, and
yeah,
you provided such a soundtrack for that. And I mean the debut album, it went on to sell, was it 100,000 copies? Which
Portishead.
no, your debut album.
Oh,
Do you like my
yeah,
type?
but it was very much Marmite on. I mean, that whole Bristol scene thought we weren't trip hop at all. We weren't serious enough, you know. And I mean, I remember playing Bristol. I didn't notice. Róisín reckons that Jeff Barrow from Portishead was at the front of the stage with a T-shirt saying "Accept no substitute" or something, which was kind of a bit bitchy. But you see, the thing is, I think we were so different, you know, because our stuff was hopefully chock full of humour, wasn't taking itself too seriously, and they were very serious. You know, nothing wrong with that, but it's very different, you know.
Yes. What was it like then, sort of once the debut album came up and out and got so well received? What was it like trying to get the follow-up album together? Because that's often a bit of a tricky process.
Yeah. Well, didn't the second album? I think it wasn't massively well received, the second album, and it was kind of straying into some drum and bass territory, which kind of threw people off a bit. But again, that was the inspiring drum beat of that time. But I think it had Sing It Back on it, didn't it? And in its original form. So
Yes.
that kind of got us to the third album, I guess.
And did that and what was the process like of that particular single? Can you remember how it sort of came together?
Um, Yeah, can I remember how? Well, Boris Dlugosch asked to remix it. He approached the management of the label and asked if he could do a mix. I think had we had anything to do with his label? I can't remember. But and he did this mix, and it was just unstoppable. And it originally came out on Peppermint Jam. Um, and then latterly on which Peppermint Jam, yeah, and it did very well. And then it was kind of stalled, and then re-released in 2000, and it hit number, what was it, 2 or something? I can't remember.
Yes, it certainly did sort of shoot up there, didn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, there was a lot of, I mean, I suppose you had people like Everything But the Girl. You would have never, if you listened to them in the early 80s, thought, yes,
Mhm.
one day they're going to have this massive hit. I can see it.
Yes, yes.
So it was kind of a bizarre time suddenly hearing certain tracks that just took us to another place as we and sort of then as then you get into a third album and we get towards the millennium. What was the kind
Mm.
of the thinking behind this one?
um, well, suddenly we had to kind of change gear a bit, really, and go, okay, well, we've had this amazing gift of a big hit record, and we need to it'd be nice if we could sort of do something on the back of that. And so I guess we started, you know, incorporating string sections, small ones like quartets, and that's what happened with the Time Is Now, and that album had a bit more orchestration on it, and yeah,
Did you
less
enjoy
of.
the process of making an album which was incorporated strings. Actually, strings became very popular in the 90s, didn't they? I remember
They
there was.
were, yeah. I
Because
guess
there was a band I quite liked called My Life Story that had this, and then suddenly I kept seeing their string section appearing on other people's records or appearing on. Is that person's on Top of the
well,
Pops with another band, but they were from My Life Story. Did you? Yes, I mean it
strings were
was.
everywhere, weren't they? I mean, Bittersweet Symphony, I know it's a sample, but, and Massive Attack, and who else was using strings?
I think even people
Everybody.
like Manic Street Preacher
Yeah.
suddenly had a
Well, if you
bit.
could, you would, because, I mean, now the software is fantastic, but you could probably convince somebody it's strings, But there was, at that point, the only way to get that sound was with with a section, really. And strings are a big part of disco. Strings are a big part of, well, it goes back to that Colin Blunstone record for me, So,
Yeah, well, I was a massive Burt Bacharach and Hal David
yeah,
fan, so I used to love that. And also the Carpenters were another band who, when I was growing up, enjoyed that vibe.
yeah,
So yes,
yeah,
one has to say beautifully produced albums and heartfelt lyrics at that stage.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I guess the songs got a little bit more earnest and reflected, experiences that Róisín and I were having a little more. So yeah, it kind of lost its joie de vivre, but got a bit more um, um, serious. I think, yeah, maybe,
yes.
yeah.
And then when you went into the studio to do the fourth album,
Mhm.
Statues,
Mhm.
what was that like? Were you sort of still enjoying it, or was it sometimes one of those experiences people feel like this is probably going to be the last one?
This is probably going to be the last one. I think was an overriding feeling, so we might as well go mad. I mean, we had like a little room in Metropolis, for God's sake. Metropolis Studios was a big studio complex that was in Chiswick. I don't know if it's still there. You would bump into Mick Jagger in there, and you would bump into Jeff Beck and people like that. And I think by the end of that album, I mean, I was just having a nervous breakdown because we had one, two, three rooms on the go. So I would be running from one of those three rooms to do a session and then go and listen to the strings being rehearsed and so on. So in fact, because we had the budgets, we used the budgets, and but listening to it now, I think it all went a bit baroque. Really, it was like there's a hole. We can fill that with a 16-piece brass section. It's like, yeah, it was. I think we were allowed too much free reign on that, really, but it is
That's
what
a
it is, and it was a good finale, I guess.
God. There was so many people played on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You had
really.
everybody, didn't you? The incredible bands and
Yeah, yeah,
string sections.
yeah.
You can get another
We
violin.
did 40-piece string sections in Air Studios. I dread to think what that cost. And I remember going out after one take to a violinist and saying, "That was amazing. Did you enjoy that?" And he said, "No, not really." And it's a great experience, because I think it was Audrey Riley who was the conductor and string arranger, the person who put the dots down, um, separated my sort of one finger playing on the keyboard, and she was looking at the orchestra and going, they're more rock and roll than you lot are. She said that one, he's got a Valium habit. He's completely schizophrenic, and that's going around the string players. They were a kind of motley crew, but amazing
Right.
players.
I would imagine, yes. The intensity, isn't it? The intensity. I mean, the photograph, the cover is quite amazing. Who came up with that idea? Which is
Oh,
quite a picture,
that
isn't it?
photographer is Elaine Constantine, who's a very famous fashion photographer at the time. She was Nick Knight's understudy, and uh, her husband Marco was a big Northern Soul aficionado. That's when I kind of got to find out about Northern Soul very late in the day. But and she was a friend. She was a friend of Róisín's, and I knew her, and so that project was for that. We all went down to Cornwall and uh, did got in the sea. But those are the. Yeah, I mean, the cover of "I Am Not a Doctor," which was the second album. Ian Anderson from the Designers Republic said, "I know what we're going to do. We're going to go up the Eiger and milk a cow in a suit of armour."
Right.
And he approached the record label and they said yes. So we all went out to Switzerland. We had a cow brought up to the snowfields in a little basket, and then Róisín wore a suit of armour and pretended to milk the cow. And then we took the photographs. That was Elaine Constantine as well. So it was the second photograph sleeve that she'd done. Yeah.
Right. Blimey, that's
Budgets, eh?
budgets, God. So that on the? Did you say that was on Not a Doctor, the cover?
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's a mountainous landscape, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. The Eiger. The north face of the Eiger in the background, and we're sort of on the hill opposite it. Yeah, milking a cow.
Milking a cow. My God, I need to do more examination of this. Actually, more detail. But God, that was because you did a collection, didn't you? A greatest hits many years later,
Yes.
and you put it on a track, Bankrupt, Emotionally, which had been previously unreleased, hadn't you?
Oh right. Oh yeah, I
Yes.
remember. Yeah.
Was that one of the demos from that particular session? Where did that song?
Oh, I have no idea when that came from. Maybe it was an outtake. Yeah, I remember the song, but yeah.
Yes, that came out 6 years later. So after that last album, was that where you decide that's it?
Well, I mean, we toured it relentlessly for don't know how many. Was it 2 or 3 years? I can't remember. And ironically, they were the best shows we'd done. Really, I mean, the band was just amazing, and everybody was really on it. We did a kind of DVD. At Shepherd's Bush Empire, and that kind of has the live show. But we did big shows all around the world, and by the end of that, we were pretty frazzled, I think, and we just sort of went, do you know what? That's not a bad place to knock it on the head.
Yes. Was that about 04 time?
Around about 04, 05, yes.
And that was it. And then, so where do you go next then in your musical world, or do you just think I need a couple of years off?
Yeah, I did. I kind of came here to Spain, did a lot of walking, and went backwards and forwards to London. And I was still working, still making music in West London. But I guess what I was expected to do was to kind of be sent singers who can't write and write a song for them and record it. And my heart just wasn't in it, and I don't think. It just didn't really hang right with me. So yeah. But I've got an album coming out next year, or two albums coming out next year. I took some time out to. I've never stopped making music, but I kind of for a long time, I kind of thought, well, it would just ruin it if I put it out. You know, I'd have to talk to people about it.
Oh, right, yes. That is quite annoying, isn't it?
So I might dig through some of that stuff.
So you
Yeah.
have got sort of tapes there in the background.
Oh, loads. Yeah, yeah. Digital cupboards of them. Yes,
Do you have a studio in Spain then?
I do. I'm in it now. Yeah,
You're
yeah,
in it. There's quite a
yeah.
lot of musicians I spoke to who are either Spain or Portugal,
Uh-huh.
who've sort of relocated either from other parts of Europe or I think America as well.
Well,
I
there's no
guess,
record labels in London anymore, really. So, I used to be able to nip down to Shepherd's Bush or to West London and go and meet somebody, but they're not there anymore. So, yeah. And obviously, internet makes anything possible these days. So, yeah.
well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, my God. So was it 0304 that was the last time you played live then? Was that the last kind of,
0304.
have you played?
Yeah, I think the last thing we did was Jonathan Ross radio show. So we did some acoustic things on that. Yeah.
Right. So kind of really the last couple of decades has been just recovering from your musical
No,
episode.
I did produce some albums, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, restored a house. I made some sculptures. I finally got a studio 2 years ago, and I've just been hard at it since I got the studio, which is number 7, I think, in my career. So hopefully it'll be the last one. Really,
Well, yes, absolutely. That's, I mean,
I'm sick of
especially,
breaking them down and starting again. But yeah,
I would imagine it would be nice to sort of think this is it,
yeah, yeah.
settled, and also the climate as well. So I'm sure you don't miss the winters in, um, yeah, the
Yeah.
north or even the south of Britain, really, especially on a day like this where it's feels like -11 and it's really cold. But
Oh, God.
anyway, I
Yeah.
know. Well,
Where are
look,
you? Whereabouts are you?
Norwich. We're in a fine
Norwich.
city of Norwich, the world
Right.
of,
Yeah.
was it Sale of the Sanctuary and Alan Partridge? So there you go.
Yes.
Delia
Okay.
Smith. So yes, it's a nice place and it's all very pleasant. So did you ever play in this area at all, or
Um.
probably not? It's
Ooh.
only the UEA really, and you'd have
Yeah.
probably been too big when you were touring.
Oh, I
Actually,
don't know. I don't remember playing Ipswich or Norwich.
no,
No.
you probably went Cambridge if you were going to come anywhere.
I can't remember, mate.
No. But anyway, look, Mark, thank you ever so much, and
All
thanks for
right,
your
David. Thanks.
the early years was obviously the 80s, which we love
Uh-huh.
so much, and it has been amazing listening to it. It's funny because your band, the 80s band was like, I don't know how many views on Spotify. I think it was quite an amazing difference really between the two bands. One had like 1.5 million a month, and the other had 100 a month. So I thought, oh, that's good. Sort of both spectrums really. I
Is
guess
Chakk on Spotify then?
Oh yes, God, it's there.
Oh, well, okay.
I've been listening to it religiously, hearing these amazing cut-ups and vocals and
Uh-huh.
cats. So yeah, you're all there.
Oh, well.
So there you go. Look, I can prove it. Clocks and Babies.
Oh, right, that was an EP, I think. That was, yeah.
Don't know. It's got all the tracks. It's got 12 tracks on it.
Okay.
Caught in Your Face, Frame of Behavior, Scratch,
Is it
Lost
is
People.
10 Days in an Elevator on there?
I'll see if it's on. No, it's not on that one. There's an EP which
Oh.
is Bloodsport.
Ah, yeah, that's like a remix or a
And then
collab.
there's a Sheffield one which is on here as well. A compilation of various bits. The Negatives, Why, The Toy Shop. No, which song's yours? I just sorry. This is good. This is good chat, isn't it? Oh, Out of the Flesh, Mix One.
Oh.
So that was yours. Let's see if there's any others. Anyway, they're there on Spotify, and there you go. So that's 180 listens a month, which is compared to your other musical band. I think you've got 1.9 million monthly listeners. So there you go.
Statistics say they're everything these days. It's probably more people listening to Chakk these days than listen to it in 1983 or whatever it was.
Well,
Yeah,
it's interesting because actually I think a lot of young people are quite curious with the 80s because they can
yeah,
listen to the music and avoid the political landscape and think, God, it was
yeah.
a great decade. And you go,
Uh-huh.
it's all right. Great
I th-
music.
we looked to the 70s, at points in the 90s, certainly with samples. They all came from the 70s. So, yeah, I guess, the generation always looks sort of 2 decades before, maybe.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And let's face it, with our love of prog rock and funk, it was a great period, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Philadelphia Soul, which was, I mean, all those
prog
bands.
funk.
I know, Young Americans by David Bowie, what an album. So
Oh, my goodness, yes, you're right, yeah.
it's
Although
good.
I really like Low and all that stuff. The German ones.
Yes,
The
well, there was
Bavarian.
Dennis Davis on drums, which was just amazing sound he got. So good old David. Anyway, there is a Channel 4 film on tonight of David Bowie or tomorrow. So if you get Channel 4, do check it out.
Oh, right, okay. Maybe I can with my VPN or
You
something.
might be,
Yeah.
yes. His last 10, 20 years, apparently. So we'll
Ah,
see.
ah.
Anyway, look, Mark, thank you ever so much for your
Bye,
time.
David. Thanks very much.
And that, dear listener, is the end of the interview. A massive thank you to Mark for giving me the time for that. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. So if you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 show. Always nice to hear from you. And also, all these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Have a great week. Stay safe.